In the previous two recordings for this unit, I talked about how to use grouping to format worksheets and how to use grouping to create formulas that reference cells in multiple worksheets. In this recording, I want to talk about how to create how to create formulas that actually reference cells in other workbooks. So we, in the last unit, created a budget 2013 workbook. If you didn't follow the others, you're not going to have this one. And there's also a 2012 one that I provided for you. I'm going to open those two up. Highlight them both and choose open, and Excel will open them. And now I have two workbooks open over down here at the bottom. I can see that by touching them here. There we go, 12 and 13. And what I want to do now is create a history workbook. It's kind of a summary of all my years of budgeting so I can do some more analysis. So I'm going to create a new Excel workbook, just a blank one. And I'm going to save that as history, budget history. And I'm going to put that, where am I going to put it? Put it in my, that's not where I wanted it to go, but I can change here. In my Excel formula, you put it in the same folder with all your other stuff. So I'm trying to find where I put it. It's on my desktop. I can't remember. Sorry, wasting time here. There's my Unit 4 folder, and I want to call this Budget History. And now I have three workbooks open, 1, 2, 3. In order to create these 3D formulas, however, it is often convenient to be able to see multiples of these worksheets at the workbooks, at the same time. Excel 2013 makes this a little bit easier. Each one of the workbooks gets its own tab down here. And one of the things you can do is under the View tab, you can choose Arrange All. Now be careful when you do this. And the book does this with 4 files open at this, 4 workbooks open at the same time. I have 3. Whichever one you choose, whichever one is the active worksheet, in my case the history worksheet, is going to appear as the topmost, leftmost sheet. So it's sometimes wise to pick that. The book likes tiled. I think I'm going to go with that. You can also create horizontal worksheets. Let me just show you what these look like. If you choose horizontal, the 3 worksheets are stacked up on top of each other. With my small window here, that doesn't give me a lot of room to work. And I lost my navigation bars. Hang on a second. Okay, that didn't work very well when I stacked them on top of each other because I lost my ribbons, and they trying to make up as much room as they can. The way I solved the problem is I hit maximize and brought my budget worksheet back to the top. Right, so even when you do a arrange all and vertically stack or horizontally stack them, you can still, let me just do it again so you can see what I did. Notice my ribbons are gone, so I can't get to my view menu, but I maximized one of these and then my ribbon came back, and now I can say, well, that arrangement didn't work. So let me do a different one. How about vertical? In vertical, it stacks them side by side. Now that's not too bad, right, but I don't have a lot of room here in my history worksheet, and I want a little bit more room there. So I'm going to do one more. I'm going to maximize this again just so I can get a little more space, arrange, and I'm going to do, 2 more, cascade. They do kind of a waterfall effect, and it's kind of hard to get to them individually from there, so I'm going to do one more tile. This is the one the book seems to like. You have to experiment and get what you want to get the layout that you want. Notice I have budget history over here. Because I have 3 workbooks open, this gets half the screen, this gets half of what's left, and this gets half of what's left. Now please recognize that these are just regular windows. You can resize them if you want to make them a little bit bigger and switch back and forth anyways, but I'm going to leave them this way. One of the other things the book mentions is when you have worksheets tiled like this, if your screen is relatively small, these ribbons can get in the way. But we can hide them by clicking this little arrow here. This collapses the ribbon so that we can see a little bit more data in our worksheets, and I'm going to do that in every worksheet. I have to click to make it focused and then click to collapse the ribbon. Now I can see a little bit more about what's going on. I want to make sure the summary worksheet is selected in both of these because that's what I'm going to be using to do my statistics. And I might as well scroll to the top so I can see what's going on here. And now the first thing I want to do is steal my headings here because I want something very similar in my history. So I'm going to steal these two cells here. I don't need the year because my history has the years as column headings a little later. And copy those to the clipboard. Remember, you could always do Control-C and paste them over here. Okay. And I want this to then be a history sheet. Remember, this is a formula that I found on the web that calculates the current sheet name, and I could change this to history, but I'm not going to have a whole bunch of sheets in my history workbook, so I'm just going to change this cell to history. And then it would be nice if my sheet name was changed, and I'll put budget history here. When I was experimenting, I did discover that this formula doesn't work very well if you have spaces in your sheet names. So that formula would need to be modified, and that's a little beyond the scope of this. And now I have something that's laid out pretty close. I do want to copy information from here. If your screen is really small like mine is here, sometimes it helps to just maximize it, copy what you want. What I want in this case is all of this data. I want to copy it. Control-C. If you restore this, it goes back to its original size, and then come over here and paste. Make column A fit. Notice it works to fit just entertainment. Why didn't it use this data? Because it's merged, and so it doesn't see that as column A, so that works pretty well. And let's see, what else do we need to do here? Copy that, yep. All right, and then here I want to put the 2012 label, and here 2013. Those are the 2 years I have. You can always add more later. And then I need to be able to go home. Notice if you touch these tabs, the ribbon expands again. It's only temporarily. Boldface it. Okay, and I want them centered, so I'll change the alignment to centered. And I want a bottom border, just like I have on the other ones. That looks pretty good. Okay, so I have those. And now what I want to do is copy my housing total expenditures from 2012. So here's my 2012 sheet. I'm in the summary sheet. Here's the total. I want to copy that into here. Now, not copy it, because it's a formula over there. I want to take the value from there and reference it here. So I'm going to create a formula. Now, how do I reference a formula that's in a completely different workbook? If you have the workbook open, it's exactly the same way as you've always done it. Take your mouse, go over here and click once to activate that sheet, and then again to select that value. And notice Excel automatically creates the cell reference for you. It puts the worksheet name at the front, then the name of the, workbook name at the front, then the worksheet, and then the cell reference. And notice that the cell reference is absolute. Press enter, and I get the same value there. Now here I want to do basically the same thing, but I want it from 2013, so I have to grab it from down here. Equals, click once to activate the sheet, and once again to grab the value. Press enter. And now it's copied those over. Now, as we saw, these were absolute references. Because these values are all in pretty much the same cells, I don't really want this to be an absolute reference. Okay? So I'm going to remove the absolute reference from here. Click on the reference and then press the F4 key until all the dollar signs are gone. And then do this one at the same time. Now there's no absolute references, and now when I copy these, the F5 will change to an F6, will change to, and it'll grab the correct values from the other formulas. Highlight them both, drag them all the way down. Okay. I've even put a 3D reference here. Didn't have to. I could have just taken these values and added them all up. Notice down here at the bottom, the number is the same. Okay. So I didn't have to make these 3D references, but it was easy just to drag them down, and now they're done. And then now in here, let's just add that top border. It's at home. Remember that you don't put borders on numbers, you put borders on statistics and labels, not data. And so now I have my top borders, and I could make those bold if I want to. I think I'm just going to leave them. Okay, so now I can do some analysis of this if I wanted to. I could chart them together and see how things are going if I wanted to. Instead, I'm going to create some totals. So over here in E5, I'm going to put in totals. And I'm going to steal the format from here. I'm going to right-click it, grab the format painter, and click so that it boldface, centers, and underlines it all at the same time. Now I could, in the totals here, simply add these two numbers, but what I want to do is show you how to create formulas. These are technically formulas, but they don't do any math. How to create formulas using 3D references, and the process is basically the same. We click the equal sign, point to the total for 2012, then the plus sign, I'm just typing, and then the total for 2013. And it adds those two together for me. Right, so there's my total. Now I can't copy that because, again, there's absolute references, and I want to be able to copy that, so I'm going to have to change both references. Okay. Now also notice that where's the rest of my formula? It's there, it just doesn't fit in the formula bar. So I can, if I wish, drop this formula bar arrow down and it expands my formula bar. In this worksheet, that formula bar will stay expanded until you click on that arrow again. But here's my two references. Now this time, thinking ahead a little bit, I'm not going to completely remove the absolute references. I'm only going to remove the references from the rows. Remember when I copied these, the only thing that changed was the F5, F6, F7, just the row number. So I'm going to think ahead a little bit, and this time I'm going to press F4 until just the column is locked in, but not the row. There, I've got a dollar sign on my F that says don't change to column F. I always want you to grab column F, but we're going to change the row numbers as we go. Same thing here. F4, F4, now I've got a dollar sign on F5. I should be able to copy that. Because the 5s don't have dollar signs on them, they will update when I copy them, but the F's will not. It will always stay F. And now I can copy those all the way down here and get my totals. And since I've started keeping track of my budget, I've spent $102,000 on stuff. Sounds like a lot. It's only a couple of years. Pretty good. I want my underline on that one, so once again I'm going to steal the format from here and put it in there, and now it's done. The last thing I want to know is, what are the deltas? The delta is the change from one year to the other. So here I'm going to put in delta. I think the easiest way to do that would just be copy this over here and change the text of this one to delta. Notice my formula bar stays enlarged even though I don't need it to be. Right, so I can collapse that when I need be. But now here's the kicker. I'm going to copy this formula that says take the 2012 budget and add it to the 13 budget. What I really want to do is take 13 and subtract it from 12. Now I could point to them in the other worksheets, or I can just copy this. I'm going to copy it over. And notice when I do, this formula is identical. I changed columns, but the column was locked. I'm still in row 5. Nothing's changed. What I want to do is take the 13, so I'm going to edit this formula, take the 13 and subtract it, not add it. And there's a subtract the 12 value, 2012 value. If I'd been smart when I created this total, I would have said 13 plus 12, and then I just changed the minus sign. Wasn't that smart? So now my formula says take the 2013 value, subtract from it the 2012 value. The first one should be 0 because they're identical. But now again, I can copy this. When I copy it, the F will stay, but the row numbers will change and the minus sign will stay there. And now I can see that here, my budget went up from 12 to 13. I spent $15 more. Big deal. Here it went down. The car payment went down by $1,850. The main reason for that is, remember, in 2013 we paid off the car and didn't have to make payments for October, November, and December. So some of these values I can do some analysis on, but you get the main idea here. So now I'm just going to copy the formatting from this one more time so I get my underlines. And those are 3D formulas. If you plan them properly, take the absolute references off, you can copy them and not have to build them over and over and over again. My assignment notes, when you look at the assignments for Unit 4, watch the modifications carefully. I give you some tips to say take their absolute references off, make it just a column absolute reference. I give you some tips to make creating these formulas easier. So those are 3D formulas that go across multiple worksheets. What I forgot to mention is you cannot use any of the statistics functions like sum or average like we did with multiple worksheets in the second recording. You cannot use them at all here unless you put commas in between. You're really not gaining anything. So you cannot use sum, can't use average. You have to calculate that stuff manually when you're working across multiple worksheets. All right, this is probably a good time to save my budget history here. Done a lot of work. Save that. Okay, now what am I supposed to do? 2013 car repair, right there. The number is 1900, 2013. So here's my 2013 worksheet. I'm going to go to January. And in January, I said we didn't spend, go to January, didn't spend anything on car repair. And I realized, oh, that's a mistake. Should be 200. As you'll notice, when I have these workbooks open, if I change this to 200, as soon as I press enter, that value right there, if you can see my mouse in the recording, is going to change. This only works if all of the workbooks are open. If one of the workbooks is closed, particularly this history one, if the history one is closed when you make these changes, it doesn't update automatically. Notice the value right now is 2100. So I'm going to save this with its new value and close it. And I'm actually going to close budget 2012 and budget 2013 as well. Nothing much to save. Okay. And then I realized, wait a minute, that $200 that I spent in 2013 on January car repairs, that wasn't in January, that was a different month. And so I want to open that again and see what's going on. Don't know what's causing this. Might be my virtual machine. Should work okay second time I open it. Okay, so here's my car repair of $200 in the budget year of 2013. I'm going to change it back to 0 because that's what it should have been. Press enter to lock that in and save. I'm going to close this. I don't have to, but I'm going to. And I'm going to open my budget history file. Hopefully this one will come up right away. But when it comes up, something strange happens that you've probably never seen before in Excel, unless you have linked worksheets. Hopefully this won't take too long. Remember, I changed the car repair back to 0, so the total for car repair in 2013 should be back to its 1900. When that worksheet popped up, we get this dialog box that you're probably not used to seeing. It says, wait a minute, this workbook's got links to other workbooks. Because of the security that's built into Microsoft Excel, it warns you whenever you open, every single time you open this worksheet, it's going to warn you and say, do you want me to update those links? You can choose to update or not update. Notice that my value is still 2100. It has not seen the change yet. But if I tell it to update, get it to click, off it goes, and it opens both of those workbooks, basically reads them behind the scenes and updates all of these statistics. So whenever you're using workbook links, every time you open that worksheet, that workbook, excuse me, it's going to ask you, do you want me to update these links every single time? It can't tell whether things have changed. It's asking you, things may have changed. Do you want me to go look? If you don't hit update, you won't see the new values. This is a security feature. You can turn it off. So I'm going to go to Options. And I'm going to go to the Trust Center settings. Click Trust Center here, and then Settings. And you'll notice, first of all, that external content, first of all, it says never show any messages in the message bar. But the external content, it says prompt me. Okay. And in protected view, that's not what I'm looking for. This says never show information about block content. I'm going to say put it in the message bar instead. If I put it in the message bar, click on OK, close budget and open it again, I should see a message bar message instead of that dialog box. There was one other option I forgot to set, and that's the advanced option. You need to turn off this part that says ask to update automatic links. Okay. That needs to be done when you to turn off that and just show it in the status bar. So let me try this again. Turn that, click on OK, and I'm going to close this and reopen it. And now when I open that again, oops, It doesn't ask, and it just updates the formulas. I didn't save this, so there's no way it would have known that without it just did it automatically. There's a bit of a security risk there, but I'm not a big believer in people putting security holes inside their Excel macros to cause trouble. One last thing we can do, these are still formulas here. I'm going to bring my toolbar back. By the way, once you're hiding this, it'll come back. And some people actually like to leave it this way. It comes back whenever you click on the ribbon. But if you want to bring it back permanently, it's this little button up here, just to the left of the minimize button, and you can say show tabs and commands, and now they're locked in again. If I want to, maybe I want to save this and I want to send it to somebody, but I don't want them to see the underlying formulas, and I want them to be able to look at it and maybe draw some charts, but they don't have the support data files. Whenever I open this history, if the 2012, 2013 files aren't there, that can cause a lot of trouble. So one of the things I can do is go to data, and I can edit the links in this document, and I can say break the links. And if I do that for both files, then there are no links anymore for those two files. And if I look at these formulas, they're no longer formulas, they're just values. And if I save this under a different name, I can send it to somebody else and they can look at it and modify it, and I don't have to worry about my master one being changed.